Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel, and right here, this podcast is all about helping people, helping gamers like you realize their full potential through the games they play. And today I'm joined by an awesome special guest, Andrew Overfield, who started Prosper Careers, which is all about helping secure people working in the video games industry and about hiring. So, Andrew, welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Daniel, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for inviting me. So it's an interesting one. So I've worked in and out of the video game industry for maybe 15, 16 years now, and then I took a stint. I was working in video game audio for a long, long time, and doing film trailers, trying to do audio implementation, all that kind of stuff. And then one thing led to another. I ended up working in recruitment, where it's a lot easier to make a lot more money. When you're not doing it for the passion, when you're doing it. So doing that for a long, long time, and moving around here, there, and everywhere. And I unfortunately lost my job in April last year. And I went on holiday because that's what you do when you lose your job, you go on holiday.
Right.
And a couple of old friends of mine from a studio in the UK that I had mentored into getting into video game audio 12, 13 years ago sent me messages, called me up, Facebook messages. I think we're going to get laid off next week. And I was on the beach. I'm messaging these guys like, guys, I'll help you out. I'll help you with CV feedback, interview prep, all that kind of stuff. But I'm on holiday at the moment. I'll come back to you when I get back on terra firma in a few days. And my wife just turned around to me. She says, "Why don't you do it yourself?" I says, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, you know what you know what you're on about when it comes to recruitment. You love and you know everything about the video game industry. Why don't you just rather than being working for a middleman, why don't you do it yourself, help your friends get jobs and build a business out of it?" So yeah, and when you reached out on your Facebook post and you were looking for Final Fantasy XIV players that
Hmm.
also worked in the industry and what have you, I thought, "Do you know what? I'd love to have a chat with you about that." And yeah, for my sins, I am a long time Final Fantasy XIV player, 10 years now.
Very much
And
the same. Yep.
I'm just grateful to be having great conversations with great people every day like yourself.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. And so just had a few questions around that as far as like the games industry, right? And kind of how it is
Yeah.
now. I know like, we're talking in 2025 and there's been a lot of layoffs in the last year.
Hmm.
So one of the things, thinking about kind of what you do as far as trying to help, those people trying to get into game development and where I'm trying to help people gamers realize their career skills and love the idea of kind of this matchup as far as uh, how are recruiters looking now, right? If there's suddenly a lot of layoffs, that means there's a bigger talent pool. So how are you supposed to stand out now in 2025 if you're looking to get into the games industry as a game developer?
That's a really good question because as a recruiter myself, I don't work internally in a game studio. My business model is based on the fact that a studio will come to me and they'll say, "We've been struggling on these roles, or we need someone to partner with because we haven't got the time or we don't have the resources." And they'll come to me, I'll find them a candidate, rather than putting an application out and putting an ad out and waiting for people to apply. I'll go and spot the talent on the market, find the right talent, have a good conversation with them. If they're the right fit, introduce them to the studio. If they get a job, I get paid, and my wife is happy because she can eat for a week or whatever. Um,
Perfect.
in terms of being visible, now there's probably been about 15,500 layoffs in the last 12 to 18 months, and a lot of
Wow.
that has come from some very questionable and interesting decisions that have been made in the video game industry over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. One of those being during the pandemic, everybody was at home, everybody had access to an affordable console underneath their television, and games were flying out left, right, and center. Look at Final Fantasy VII remake launch,
Yep.
like 20th of March, or it was around March time.
Hmm.
Everybody had a copy of it because everybody had a PS4 underneath their TV. The game sales rocketed. But then what we've got is, as the industry is a business, it is no matter what. I know we love it and it's creative and we're passionate about it, but it's a business. You've got a lot of investors externally going, "I want a piece of that pie because the video game industry has done fantastic in 2020. It's done fantastic in 2021. I want to see 12% return on my investment." So they're putting into further publishers, putting into further developers, make this game, make this game, make this game. A lot of pressure being put on studios to bring quality product as well as lots of live service elements. Um, Added with that, there's been a number of different acquisitions over the course of the last 12 to
Yeah.
18 months. Where, you've seen the Activision Blizzard takeover by Microsoft. You've been seeing a number of other studios which have been engulfed by much larger entities like Embracer Group, Tencent, so on and so forth. Naturally, there are going to be layoffs because if you have 1,200 members of staff, but 30% of that workforce is pretty much a double up of what you've already got, it's going to happen. So to go back to your original question, like how to make yourself seem visible. I speak to a lot of people like on a regular basis that are looking for work, and one of the things is have a LinkedIn profile, right? That's first of all.
Simple,
First,
right?
yeah, it's great having a GitHub. It's great having something on DeviantArt or something like that, or it's great posting on Facebook. But a hiring manager or a recruiter probably won't see you unless you have a LinkedIn profile. You're active. It looks presentable. You've got a list of your credentials or your experience on there, and having keywords within your particular profile, which will allow a recruiter to find you using a Boolean search.
Okay.
So, for example, I was looking for online back-end engineers for I can't talk about it at the moment in time, but it's for a great project going on the West Coast of the United States. But to be able to find the right people, I needed somebody that had experience in C++ and Unreal Engine 4 and 5, but they also understood what C Sharp and Unity was doing because they were transferring assets from Unity
Ah, okay.
to Unreal, which is we've seen a lot happening because of the Unity debacle over the last
Yep,
12 months.
for sure.
So I had to search using various different keywords to be able to find the right people that have got Unity and Unreal experience that also understand how to operate in Kubernetes and Amazon Web Services and so on and so forth. So having keywords on your profile which emulate what your experience is, it's all well and good saying, "Hey, I worked on Star Wars Outlaws for a year." Great. But
Great.
what
What
does it
did you
actually
do?
mean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Did you do
absolutely.
DevOps? Were you
So,
gameplay programming? So on and so forth. So that's
so
a
having
taste.
the yeah, so that's awesome. So having that kind of experience in those keywords really helps. What do you, I guess, how do you feel about the actual like, yeah, I'll call it the soft skills developments too, right? So, and around things like and things that gamers can actually develop through games that I feel like whether it's leadership, problem
Mhm.
solving, teamwork, right? Are these kind of skills needed in career, game development?
Well, that's also a really interesting question because I speak to many people and gamers naturally tend to be quite introverted people, especially those that move on into programming, sometimes art and design and so on and so forth. We are generally an introverted bunch that might not have as many social skills as a salesperson or a retail worker or whatever. So, learning how to develop certain soft skills through the guise of a video game. So, for example, with Final Fantasy, you'll join a free company, you'll go out and do party raids, you'll potentially get on Discord and have a voice chat with a number of people and all that kind of stuff. And you'll learn how to accept direction. Do you know? We
Yeah.
were all there in 2014. Nobody could beat Titan, and everybody's getting like lay of the land or whatever, like flushed
Yep.
off the
Just straight
platform
off
and
the
yeeted
side. Yep.
everywhere. So understanding direction and instructions is important, but also being somewhat socially active on other forms of media, like I say, LinkedIn. So, you can apply the same soft skills if somebody new joins your free company and you go, "Hey, where are you from? What brings you to the game? Have you come from a different server? What part of the story are you up to? Have you started Dawn Trail yet? What do you think of Wuklamat?" And so on and so forth.
Yep.
You then connect with a hiring manager on LinkedIn, let's say the head of talent acquisition at Riot or Sledgehammer or, whatever. Hey, it's great to connect with you. How are things over there? Blah, blah, blah. What I really enjoyed your post that you saw the other day. And it just creates a little bit more visibility for, hiring professionals to find you and go, actually, yeah, you're now at the top of my radar rather than just a CV on a pile of 300 that's coming through your ATS this week. Sorry, I feel like I'm babbling on a little bit there,
Oh
Daniel.
no, absolutely fine. So it's just really interesting to get kind of the the recruiting side of the game development industry, just to say, because that's what I'm, like here to help gamers realize their potential, and a lot of it is this kind of soft skills kind of
Yep.
things, right? Because it's very, I'll say it's very easy to at least put on a resume just to say like, yeah, what you worked on, right? So
Yep.
everybody understands the what, right? It's like I did C++ or I did C sharp, I did whatever, Unity. But when you get to the soft skills, it's kind of harder to measure.
Yep.
And I think, like you said, like with gamers being a lot more introverted tendency, right? And trying to pull those skills out. But it's very interesting that where I've kind of noticed myself, where gamers were actually a lot further than we realize because of the
Mm.
games we play. Because that's where I came from a Fortune 500 company, working on like it worked with it basically worked with police, fire, like EMS, like first responders, as well as
Okay.
military hardware.
All right.
And coming from that, and then it's like, oh, and in my free time, I'm a gamer. So okay, so we come from everywhere and we do everything. So, but it's really interesting that I've noticed that in these kind of jobs, when it's kind of this corporate America situation, you kind of have this divide
Mm.
where you have kind of your professional life and your personal life, and they don't usually interact or mix. And where I found as a gamer, they can. It's very crazy because that's where my personal journey and personal story came from, as far as you're working at this company, and they told me, like I did the thing you're supposed to do. It's like, all right, I worked for a while. I guess I'm supposed to get promoted now. So I went and asked for a promotion, and they said, well, no, we just don't see your leadership potential. I was like, well, that sucks. And
Right.
then I'd go
Okay.
home and I'd play at the time Star Wars: The Old Republic. If you played that one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were doing like the in-game nightmare difficulty content, and I think it was De Novo, if you know that raid, doing
No, no.
Nightmare Kephis, which is the final boss of that one, and we were second on our server to beat
Right.
that.
Wow. Nice.
And so like, yeah, so one of the guys was tracking it. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, we're top two. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm just here having fun. And I was the guild leader and the raid leader, and I remember them saying like, they're like, thanks, Danny, you're such an awesome leader. And then it clicked, and I was like, wait a minute. He didn't say guild leader. He didn't say raid leader. He said leader.
Peter. Yeah.
And then sure enough, I was like, leadership is leadership. Like it's just so they didn't see it at work, but I was doing it. And so sure enough, I just kind of focused, like I turned my attention to the workplace, and I was like, what if this was like an MMO? What if I
Yeah.
could just play it the same way? Treat it a little bit more like a game, which will make it more fun too. And sure enough, like within 3 months, actually shared this leadership and actually got the promotion, a 30% raise that I was looking
Well
for.
done, man. Well
And I was
done.
like,
Good for
it's
you.
because I play games,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, how can we do more of that? How can I share that? That's definitely what I'm about, is trying to connect with people to say like you're further along than you realize because of the games you play. So that's why I'm really interested to hear your take on like what kind of, whether it's the hard skills, the soft skills, whatever we're learning from gaming, like what do you see in video games when you're playing that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this would be really cool to use in a workplace?
I think, do you know what? Go into that leadership side of things. I'll give you an example. So I was playing Final Fantasy XI, hardcore end game content all the way back in I finished playing in 2009, and I was also working in a call center too. So at night, I would be speaking with good friends, but I would be co-leading. I had another co-leader that we were working together, but we basically took this band of scallywags and misfits that no one else on the server wanted to bring into their link shell to do end game content, and we said
Yeah.
we're going to do it. We created this great link shell, but it went from, should we try and do Dynamis today? And then we spent a million gil and we all died, and try to do it the next time. And it went from, actually, no, we realized that we've got to be a bit more strategic. And right, can you go run over there and you go do this? But you have to wait until he's finished pulling the statue, because otherwise you're going to link them all, and then it's going to be. And we've found and devised a way of how to run it in game, and it really pissed me off that I'd be on the phone during the day with somebody that was having issues with their broadband, going, I can't get my internet working. It's all your fault. I hate you. Blah, blah. I hope you die. It's like, and I hated that. So what I did is I applied what I'd learned from leading a link shell with various different. I mean, at one point we had nearly 100 people in there that were all doing end game content with us. And instead of worrying about what I was doing, I wanted to worry about my perception within the workplace. So, for example, if a new starter joined our team, I'd take a bit of time and say, "How are you doing? You all right? Do you need any help with anything?" Do you know, have a conversation so that they
Yeah.
could see me as a little bit of a, all right, he's probably a bit more of a leadership figure. I can go to him for help. I can go to him for advice. And naturally, you become, I mean, it helped that I knew what I was doing when it came to my job, but naturally you become like the mogul. Oh, Andrew knows, he knows how to switch that over and this, that. It was really, really cool. Outside of that, I think gaming, and people don't realize it, gaming builds a huge amount of resilience. Like, and gamers don't recognize this and they don't bring it into their professional world because they may be an architect or they may be a solicitor or a lawyer or whatever.
Yep.
But the amount of resilience that you develop from failing over and over and over again, I know that, oh, don't matter, I've got infinite lives, I've done this. But if you've spent, let's say you've spent an hour putting a raid together and then another hour giving everyone what they need to do, and or you've been in Party Finder
Yep.
because you want to do extreme, I don't know, Knights of the Round, whatever, like, and then it fails. You've got to try and encourage everybody. Guys, please stick. Well, look, it's always the white mage as well that drops out. It's always the mage.
They're
Like,
the
look,
quickest.
we'll get another healer, I promise you. And you've got to try and motivate everyone as well as try and make sure that you learn from your mistakes and what have you. And that resilience, when you finished a 1 to 4 hour gaming session, you think, I've not achieved anything today. You've got to wake up the next day, log back in if you want, and get back on the horse. And
Yes.
there are a number of, like you say, Fortune 500 companies that might not recognize that. And it's not just Final Fantasy, it's Call of Duty matchmaking, MVP. It could be whether or not you've done something great in Animal Crossing, or you've been waiting for something to finish building in The Sims and it's just all gone to
Yeah.
shit. The Grim Reapers come over and killed your grandma or something.
Right.
Like, so resilience, I've seen a
Really.
huge
And
amount
that's,
of
yeah, I love the fact that you brought that up because that's definitely one of my tenets as well. Is that one of
resilience.
the top skills that I know that gamers have is resilience. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you mentioned that because that's it, because it is that perseverance, whether because you have to not only put the raid together as you say, but like fail constantly just to try to finally achieve it. And I think the leadership aspect on the tail of that too that was really interesting is that keeping the raid together and like, oh, we'll get a new healer, it'll be like it'll be fine, guys, like trying to get that together because it's a game, so
Yeah.
nobody has to be there. We're doing this for
Oh,
fun, right?
yeah.
Because when you go into the corporate world, it's like, no, that's everybody, that's their job, like whether they like you or not, they have everybody has to show up the meeting or they have to do the work.
Mm.
Okay, so like so leading sometimes is like, okay, well everybody has to be here, so oh well. But in a game, it's like, no, they're only here because they want to be here. So
Yeah.
in some ways, it's harder in that sense to lead and motivate because now you have to truly have that motivation. You can't just be like, oh, you have to be here. Nobody
Yeah.
has to be in this raid, right?
And we've all been there as well, where you get into a dungeon and the tank won't put his stance on or whatever, and dude, can you put your tanks, put sword on, put shield off on? You don't pay my subscription, you don't tell me how to play, but you don't get that in the workforce, out in the real world. They have to come into the office for that day, and you've got to learn how to interact with people, especially. And it also helps you make like strategically tough decisions. Like if you've got someone that is maybe undergeared, you're trying to do the latest extreme, they're getting hit by every mechanic. They've got, 12 stacks, 8 stacks constantly every fight. You've got to think to yourself, dude, it's really bringing the quality of this attempt down by having you here. But some people will just go kick boot done and fine. That's a great way of burning bridges. With me, it's more
Yeah.
it's not working because that person might be beneficial to me later on in the future. I might bump into
Right.
them in
They
another
could just be
raid
having a
later
bad
on.
day too. So like how do you judge someone in one raid in one instance too? That's
Exactly.
that's definitely the way we've done it. When I've put stuff together where it's like, hey, it's just kind of not working, like, we'll have to find somebody else. Because sometimes, and you kind of build even a reputation because there has been, repeat, I'll call it repeat customers, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
repeat people that come in that want to actually be part of this and they know that we're clearing content. And then that's how we've, gotten people to even, join the FC, right? Like a lot of the recruitment that we did was really people that we raided with. It's just like,
just
hey,
organic.
come join the raid, jump in our Discord server. And it's like if we like
Yeah.
them, Yeah. We do enough race together, we'll be like, hey, do you want to just become a permanent member of the FC? Like, awesome.
That's great. I'm mindful we've had a timer come up with like 9 minutes. Do you want to start the call again, or I don't know?
No, I think we're good, and so it's definitely something. I think we have so much interest around this too that I'd love to have you on, and especially as a guest a second time sometime, just to to come back because this is fantastic to talk about. I did have at least one more question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, shoot.
Uh, so around the again like the recruiting for the games industry. So we talked about the kind of the leadership. We talked about kind of resilience. And I guess the big question I think that people would have is for when you're going for like interviews, when you're trying to get recruited to work, what is on the mind? Like how would you position these kind of skills, right? This it's one thing to walk in and say, game development, I like video games, so hire me. Like, well, you got to have some skills, okay, but how do you what would you say to people that are like, hey, I do play 14, I do lead raids, I do this, I have this resilience, I think. How do I position that? How do I sell that to a hiring manager?
Well, first of all, I think you need to get yourself in a frame of mind, and this happened to me many, many years ago, where job titles don't matter. And what I mean by that is you could be in the grocery store walking past somebody who's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but they still need to get groceries, and they've still got their partner text them saying, "Oh, don't forget the baby milk, don't forget the bread." Like everybody is human, and once you get over the barrier that, oh, I'm having an interview with the tech director or the art director or the head of HR or the studio director. Like, forget the job title. They're all in this industry because they love what you love. They love making games. They love playing games. They love a passionate, immersive experience. So forget, like, as soon as you don't let the fact that a job title will overwhelm you, you've already broken down that barrier. Because just imagine you're talking to someone at the pub, a little bit more formally and professionally, of course.
Yeah.
And secondly, like it also depends on how they're leading the conversation too. So the interviewee or the interviewer, sorry, may be straight to the point, have their walls up like, blah, right, I need to know everything. Tell me this. And you go, here's a time when I've given this amount of experience, or here's a competency-based answer. But one thing to help break that down is like when they say, have you got any questions for me? You say, what what makes you get up and come to work for Square Enix every day? Or what makes you get up and come to work for this studio every day? And you'll get a little bit more of an, oh, well, I actually like it because of this, and it lets me allow to, and you start breaking down those. And once you start asking personal questions, they might retort with another personal question saying, oh, do you play Final Fantasy XIV, or do you play Modern Warfare 3 or whatever? And you might break down those barriers, but practicing your interview techniques is really important. There's
Mm.
the STAR technique, STAR. You can Google it. I think situation, task, action, resolve, or whatever
Yep.
it is.
Yep. I heard the
Um,
star one. Yep.
yeah, but one of the most important things for me is don't don't bullshit your way through the interview process. People will hire you because they think you are good enough for the job. If you ever feel as though you're lacking any substance within the interview, just draw upon your own experience. You've been talking there about how your leadership, well, by playing Knights of the Old Republic, led you to getting, better at work. You like draw upon your own experience and go, actually. I actually did that. Like I would say to them, oh, I was one of the link shells, and we actually killed Absolute Virtue, not legitimately, by the way. It was cracking clubs and blue all along. But that what I'm saying is that draw upon your own experience, and if you don't have anything that's relevant to the actual role that you're doing, talk about your family life. Talk about, do something that just brings you out of your shell a little bit, to allow you to just relax. But getting over that job title is hugely important.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. So,
Yeah.
before we leave, I just wanted to ask, is there anything people can do to get in touch with you if they're interested in game career development?
Yeah,
If they're
absolutely.
looking for a job, maybe it's like I wanted to at least plug you if you're interested. Where can they find you?
Well, I'm mostly on LinkedIn, so you could like I'm everywhere on LinkedIn. I try and post content all the time on there. There's a lot of presence that I do on there. You can email me at Andrew at prosper.careers. Um, but I think the final piece of advice that I'd like to give is like it is a very turbulent and tumultuous time within the industry at the moment in time. I stand firm that this year in H2, in the second half of the year, we'll see some significant developments in the available opportunities. Things like GTA 6 coming out will absolutely change the landscape. A lot of people don't, but I write tons about it on LinkedIn. But
Awesome.
like connect with all sorts of other professionals on LinkedIn as well, just to get your daily feed of up-to-date content to allow you to open up conversations with other people too.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Well, gosh, Andrew, thank you so much for being on here. And guys, if you liked Andrew being on here, let me know and maybe we'll get him again sometime in the future. And if you're looking to, if you're interested in trying to develop your career skills, if you want to, learn how you can draw your gaming superpower out, definitely let me know too. You can go to dragonmorexp.com, start your journey there. So, guys, thank you so much. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.